So as you settle in for this early morning yoga practice, feel into where you sense the hug of gravity. And allow yourself to be absorbed in this hug. I am connected to this planet. I belong here. I am a part of this greater fabric. And then as you sit connected to this earth, I invite you to let images from this beautiful planet, scenes that you've experienced, run through you. Sense the smells, the visual beauty, the internal awe. And see if you can settle into the gifts that this planet has offered you. Perhaps it's tastes of a food from your garden. Feel your emotional response to these passing memories. And then think for a moment of bodies of water you've been around, you've been in, you've been near, and against. Sense the landscape there, near the pond or the river or the ocean. Can you feel the breeze? Smell the air? Feel the water? And then think of the fluids you've taken into your body. Fresh water, tea, juice. What is your emotional response to thinking of these fluids that you've ingested? And now open to the sky above you. Think of the many skies that you've seen in your lifetime. The night skies, the blue skies, the rainy skies, the snowing skies. And let a night sky settle overhead. And remember looking up into that night sky at the stars and the constellations, the moon and the planets. And now pay attention to the dark spaces between these bright lights. Visualize and imagine space surrounding you and our small planet, between you and the moon and the stars and the other planets. Really let yourself sense this outer space. And then turn your gaze inward to the inner landscape, to the bones and muscles. And think of the space inside the body, space around the organs in your abdomen. The space food moves through in your intestines. Blood and lymph move through in your vessels. Visualize the fascia that weaves you together around bone and muscle and organ. And try to see this fascia in layers. And that between these layers, there are liquid layers, the interstitium. Sometimes these layers begin to stick together. And we're going to invite them in this practice to move fluidly one over the other. Invite space and fluid into your awareness. Bring your awareness to the dark spaces in this inner galaxy. As you breathe, feel into the spaces between the ribs. And breathe into the back lungs and feel the back ribs and lung tissue expand. And relax. Most of us use a third of our lung capacity. Invite space in your lungs to open and fill with pranic energy. Invite the side ribs to open. Feel the air enter the body and take up space and leave again, emptying the body. And notice how this expansion of space can rub up right against tension. And that perhaps some of that tension, that stiffness, can ride out on the exhales. And then there can be more space to breathe into. Don't feel you have to fill every last openness with breath. Don't stretch to the point of strain. Perhaps leave a little space beyond the breath. And wrap the breath in this sense of spaciousness. We ground our bodies through recognizing our earthiness, the hug of gravity and its impact on our bodies. Kapha energy. But then we open to space, to air, to sky. And we invite in Vata, the space to be creative, and the space to be ourselves. The ability to go with the flow. Let's pay great attention to the space inside today. Let's inhale our hands to our hearts. Namaste. Okay, let's come to standing. And let's begin by acknowledging space in the joints. And let's let the hands fly gently side to side, one palm up, one palm down. And let the turn of the hands come at first just at the wrist. And as the wrist moves, feel into your fingers, into the space inside the skin of your hands. And let the bones just move inside this space. Feeling into the space in your hands, surrounding the bones and the joints. And invite the space into the joints. As you begin perhaps twisting a little more and feeling the whole forearm rotate. And then perhaps you can bend and straighten the arms in the movement, experimenting with how can the elbows be involved in the movement as I still feel the movement in my wrists and my hands and my forearms. How far does it feel comfortable to twist? And do I sense space in the torso as I twist? Is there more space one direction than the other? Recently, we've been hugging in the banks of the river. That helps us create integrity in our poses, and that's really important. But of equal importance is letting space in, sky in, inside the container. So we can expand, so the energy can flow and run through us, so that we can shine and glow with our own internal energy and with the energy that flows through all beings. Now let the hands just swing side to side. Really try to let go at the upper arm bone and let the arms traction out of the shoulder socket just for a few moments, creating space in the shoulder joints. Really let the arms hang and swing. And then let the arms swing forward to back. And notice if that hurts at the front of the rotator cuff, then make the swing a little smaller. We don't always have to go into full range of motion, or perhaps we swing up and then swing down and let the knees and the hips bend and let the torso swing, still letting go in the arms. Just inviting energy to flow through the body as we release tension, shake it out, swing it out, creating space in the joints. And then come back up to standing and roll one shoulder up, back and down, the other shoulder up, back and down, and feel what's moving. Is there any tightness or stickiness in the movement? And if there is, how could you make it more fluid? Maybe you step a little wider and you take the circles at a diagonal and you begin to really stretch out this fascial net that holds us together, connects organ to bone, connects muscles to bones. Let the elbows rise and circle if that's comfortable. Stretching open, inviting space. Maybe the arm opens. And we rock our bodies and circle our bodies, inviting the nervous system to reset, to feel calmed and soothed, even as we stretch the myofascial body open. And then find, how can I stretch my chest best? Is it taking the elbow back and the palm out? And then allow the body to begin to sway side to side. And notice how far you lean the spine, and if the spine has to grip to hold you back, can you come more towards center and find more ease in the flow of the motion? And then rest your hands on your hips and circle the hips. As big a circle as is comfortable in your body. And let your conscious awareness settle into the pelvis and the femur bones. And feel for where you notice space. Taking your circles the other way. Where do you notice space? And then swing one hip and the other side to side. Again, where is there space? Where is there compression? And take the hips into a figure 8. How fluid can the movements become? Can you feel the interconnectedness between feet, ankles, knees, and hips? And take the figure 8s the other way. Fluid breath and fluid movement. And then come to stillness in mountain pose and pause. Breathe length up the spine. Let the hot air balloon lift you from your center palate. And let yourself become a little lighter on your feet. And sense the arches of your feet beneath them, creating some space for buoyancy up from the earth. And lift to one toe. And lift that knee and circle it out and out and out. We're now creating space and fluidity in the hip joints, trying to become aware of that. And land that leg and come to the toe of the other and circle out and out. Feel into the space you can create skyward. As you grow from the standing leg up, invite sky between the vertebrae even now. And release. And inhale, reach for the sky and stretch the left hand away from the left foot, the right hand away from the right foot, and just pulse the myofascia open like a cat stretching. Just feel into your own body. What will help the stretch and the release Create more space in your fascial web. And then interlace your fingers and let the palms rest on the top of the head and the shoulders rest away. And rooting into the feet, stretch the head into the hands. And bring the hands around back of the head, thumbs to the base of the skull, elbows wide open. And rooting the tailbone, lift your lowest circle of ribs, especially in the back. And then lift your heart center skyward. And take a few three-dimensional breaths. Rooting the tailbone, rooting the heels, lift the low rib ring, lift the heart, lift the gaze. And then exhale, release again into mountain pose. And let's step one foot in front of the other and take a rock step. And float your arms wide. Take one hand around to the opposite hip, the other hand behind your back, and inhale, open, and swing into a twist the other way. Inhaling and exhaling. So even as you twist towards the forward leg, can you be aware of, as the spine compresses a little in the twist, where can I stop the twist where it still feels like there's some ease in the movement? And does the twist bring more space, more fluidity after we repeat it a few times? And then come back to center. Inhale, lift the arms. Exhale, hands to the heart and bow forward, lengthening from the pelvis out through the top of the head. Release your hands beside your hips, palms down, broad across your shoulder girdle in a version of Parsvottanasana. Now rooting from the pelvis into the legs, still feel for the arches of the feet, lifting you from earth. Draw up through the pelvic floor and lengthen along the spine. Yes, we can hug in the banks of the river here, but feel for space inside. Hugging in the banks doesn't cramp the body into a solid form. Then we inhale and reach for the sky again. Interlace your fingers, bring the thumbs behind the head, wrap the elbows forward and lift. Rooting from the pelvis down, create space in the lumbar spine by lifting the low rib ring. And then breathe into the rib cage, expanding it and relaxing it. And if you'd like, unfurl your arms and open wide, rooting evenly into both legs so that you can really lengthen up all sides of the spine. Feel into the space between your extended hands. And then exhale, release your arms and switch sides, rock step. And land your feet and exhale. Hands around one direction and inhale. Exhale the other and inhale. And let yourself twist and fold and move. Fluid breath. Feeling into, where do I hit constriction? And can I pay more attention to that in daily life? Or do we ignore the body sometimes when we're doing activities because we don't want to know when we're straining? Let's instead try to find ease. And then come back to center and inhale. Reach for the sky. Really lengthen up. Really reach. And then exhale, hands through the heart, fold forward. Draw the front hip crease back. Check in that you're not hyperextending either knee. And as you lengthen the spine forward, activate the core beneath the spine, all the way up through the neck. Broad across your shoulder girdle, find the shoulder blades on the back. And from the pelvis, root down. Izzy wants to play. Lengthen the spine out and invite space between the vertebrae. Traction the spine out of the pelvis a little. And then inhale, float up, reach up again. Interlace the fingers the funny way, thumbs to the base of the skull, reach the elbows skyward. Root evenly into both legs, lift the lowest back rib ring. Really stretch the lumbar spine and open the arms if you like. Feel into the space between your arms, the space between your legs. Invite that sense of space into the inside of the body. And exhale, mountain pose. Fluid breath. Okay, let's step the feet wide and turn the left foot out. Take the right heel back and open into your star pose. Feel into the space around you as the star and ground evenly into both legs as you begin to lean towards Trikonasana. Pause partway there. Root into both feet. Activate your banks of the river, but then invite energy in, space into the pose. Lengthen the spine before you perhaps hinge a little farther. Activate strength around the column. Feel for it. Are there muscles that are now gripping? Can you ask others to come on board so nothing has to grip? Keep long and spacious in the spine. It's not how low you go. How spacious, how strong can the pose be? And then exhale, float back up, long spine. Turn the left foot in, right foot out. Feel into your space and begin to lean right. Pause. Root both legs and lengthen the spine out of that rooting. Coming farther. Imagine you're a little spring plant growing and your legs and pelvis are the roots. And your spine is the stem, growing skyward. Your arms are the first little leaves. Breathe into opening into a new day, out of the soil into the sky. And exhale, back up. Turn your feet together, step together, mountain pose. Okay, I'd like us to come to a wall. If you don't have a wall, you can imagine a wall. Come up, fingertips as high as they'll come on your wall. Really lift your heels as high as they'll come off the floor. And then exhale, slowly begin to lower the heels without moving the fingers. And then when you've moved the heels as far as they'll go without moving the fingers can begin to slip slightly down the wall. Let the whole spine stretch, the rib cage, the shoulders. And when the heels come to the floor, lift up again, walk the fingers up again, and try one more time. Lowering the heels and stretching space along the spine. And then let your hands slide down the wall. If you don't have a wall, you can put the hands on your chair or piece of furniture and come into your half dog. Come to the fingertips of your hands. Feel the space under the palms and around the fingers. Lengthen the pelvis away from the fingers on the wall. And then as you're ready, lift the head, neck above the shoulders. Find length in the head and neck and lower only as far as feels like that you can keep that spacious quality. Ground one foot and float the other up into your Virabhadrasana 3. Lift from underneath the spine. Lengthen the whole length of the spine. Toes turning towards earth. Hug the banks of your river in, but invite sky inside the pose. And exhale. I'll walk in towards the wall. If you don't have a wall, just come into a standing back bend. If you have a wall, isometrically draw the hands down, lift the heart. Root the tailbone, lift the low rib rigs, and come into a standing cobra. Release the shoulders away from the skull, lengthen the neck. Breathe three-dimensionally into the body. And coming back to neutral, Reach your hands up one more time. Lift onto the balls of your feet and slowly lower the heels. Feel for the waistline expanding, the rib cage, spine lengthening, and then slowly walk back. Come on to your fingertips. Reach your pelvis away from the fingertips. Lift head and neck so your shoulders are well integrated. And then as you're ready, float your foot up behind you. Invite space, your awareness of space around the pose. Feel into the space beneath you, beneath your torso, beneath your lifted leg. Feel into the space above you, the space all around your body. And remember that there's also space inside, even when we're holding challenging poses. And step back in towards the wall. Draw the hands down as you lift the heart. Root the tailbone, lift the low back rib ring. Lift the heart. Lengthen from the base of the neck to the base of the skull. We're opening the heart skyward. And exhale, release. Now, if you don't have a wall here or a door, you may want to come to the floor for this exercise. But if you do have a wall, come back against the wall and bring the head of your arm bones back towards the wall. Feel into trying to put pressure through the length of the humerus bone back into the wall. So not just at the elbow, not just at the head of the arm bone, but the whole length of the humerus bone. And then root your heels into the ground, tailbone reaching earthward, lengthen through the top of the head, and invite breath into the front, heart center. Invite breath to expand the chest open. Breathe into your heart, your emotional heart. Invite prana in. Still pressing back with the arms. Remember, you don't have to do it at 100% of effort. Do it in a sustainable way where the arms can rest back, the head can rest back. And release. Pause again in your mountain pose. Feel into the body and reach for your yoga strap. Take your yoga strap behind you, hands as wide as your hips, and lift your arms up behind you as you open the chest forward. And inhale, look out over your right shoulder. Release the shoulders away from the skull. Breathe space into the neck itself. And exhale through center and inhale to the right side. Open across the chest, but don't do this by flaring the ribs forward and sticking the butt out. Root the tailbone. Don't tuck the tail. Don't flatten the lumbar spine, but root the tail. Lift energy up the front of the spine and exhale to center and release your arms. And then draw the arms back again. Inhale up into the heart center, rooting the tailbone. Bend your knees. See if the arms can lift a little farther, but reach out through the knuckles. So release the shoulders away from the ears. Perhaps you hinge forward, torso parallel with the floor. Continue to lengthen out through the knuckles so the shoulders don't shrug up by the ears. See if you can lengthen the low back. Some of you may stay here. Some may be able to set your belly right on your femur bones and lift your sit bones skyward, coming into Uttanasana with the arms coming overhead. Only go as far as is right in your body today. Fluid breath into whatever stretch comes for you. Three-dimensional breath with the idea of creating space inside the myofascial web. Space for us to feel at home while still having freedom to move with ease. And then bring your hands back down and unhinge. Bring the strap to the front of the body. And inhale, lift it skyward. Root your tailbone. Hug in the banks of your river gently. And imagine that your breath is the water flowing through the river and that it reflects the night sky. Invite this energy to flow through the torso as you gently hug in the banks of the river. And exhale, release the arms down front. Now you can continue releasing down front, or you can inhale up, take the arms behind you and breathe into the chest. So go to where it's right for you. Don't strain. You shouldn't feel pinching in the shoulder. And then come back to the breath, expanding inside of you and creating more space in the tissue. Where can you lengthen and invite space? And then if it's comfortable, you can exhale the hands down behind you and inhale them back up and over. If that's not comfortable, just bring them down forward. And we inhale and pause and release, all at our own pace. Follow your breath. Feel into your unique body. Rest and stretches. Breathe and expand and then relax. Let the body pulse in a spanda, a pulsation of life force. And then reach your right arm skyward. Root evenly through both feet. Really reach the right fingertips and then bend the elbow. Float the left arm up in front of you and draw the head of the arm bone back and bring the hand around to the strap. Now, for some people, it's going to be more comfortable with the elbows at a diagonal. And then from there, you can slowly work towards the lifted elbow skyward and the other elbow earthward. Now notice if you try to come into position, but your spine is rounding and your shoulders are uncomfortable, go back to one of the previous exercises or just come to holding the elbow with the other hand. If you're comfortable here, take the lifted elbow in a circle overhead and just feel into what tissue in the body you become aware of here. Is there any place you can feel for or invite expansion? And then come back to standing and stay here and release, or open the arms slightly behind you like you're pulling back the bowstring and release. Bring the left hand to the strap, rooting your feet, reach it as high as you can. And then bend the elbow. And then float the right arm up. And this is really important. Draw it to the back of the body. Okay, so the humerus head comes way back so that when you bring the right arm down and around to the strap, you haven't thrown it really hard into the front of the rotator cuff. Now let your head and hyoid bone lean back and take a deep breath. And exhale, really ground from the pelvis down. And decide what's comfortable for you. And if you're comfortable for here, circle the elbow. Like you could draw a light way up above you on the sky. And then come back up and pause. And if you'd like to, take the bowstring back behind you, stretching the shoulders open. And release. Oh, let's do one more thing with the strap. Bring it around your neck. Have it even on both sides. And then elbows to the inside of the strap. Lift the strap at the base of the skull. Now let your gaze look down towards the earth and really lift the base of the skull. Breathe space into the back of the neck. And then slowly bring your gaze up to the horizon, still tractioning the base of the skull. Imagine that you can really breathe space between the vertebrae, that you can plump the discs with your breath. Now, let the gaze lift a little higher, still tractioning the base of the skull. Lift the gaze slightly and lift the heart. Root into your heels, root your tailbone. Open the heart skyward. Lengthen the back of the spine. Breathe sky even between the vertebrae at the back. If you'd like to, lengthen your arms on the strap. Come into your standing back bend. Tailbone rooted, front core strong to support the back bend. Length up the side bodies, a gentle hug at the banks of the river. Let the sky and water flow through your center channel. And exhale. Release and pause in your mountain pose. Fluid breath. Okay. Let's bring our blocks or our chair forward for a few sun salutations. We've created some expansiveness, hopefully, in the upper body, some awareness. Now inhale, lift your hands, lift your heart, standing back bend. Exhale, hands through the heart, Utkatasana. How low can your sit bones come? Stretch the lumbar spine back. Bring your hands to your props and step the right foot back. Inhale. Either float up in your crescent or lower the heel and float up into Vira 1. Inhaling. Lift through the pelvic floor. Relax the shoulders away from the skull. Broaden the shoulders, even broaden the hands like you're creating a funnel for all good energy. Let your palms reach skyward and take in sky energy as your legs root you to earth. Invite the banks of your river to gently hug, but invite space into the body. Invite flow. Feel with awareness into how you can create space inside the container of the pose. And exhale, hands to the heart, bow forward, humble warrior. Let your hands float out to the sides, palms down, thumbs out as wings. Spread your wings wide and bring your thumbs towards each other overhead. And exhale, palms together, hands to the heart. Unfold your wings back by your hips. Let the wings come out wide, thumbs towards each other, palms down towards the heart. And one more time, unfold your wings, bring them wide and together overhead, hands to the heart, lift up. Rooting the pelvis down, lift the heart, lift the thumbs with your heart. Breathe space between the vertebrae, open the spine, and exhale. Fingertips or hands to your props. Move the props to the blocks to medium if you're on blocks, and step back plank. Stay in your plank if you'd like to, or flow forward into your upward dog. If you come into upward dog, really use that front core strength to support the spine. And then exhale back, downward dog. Walk your dog bending one knee and then the other. Invite in a stretch of the myofascial network. Let your hips move back and forth. Your breath flow. And coming to neutral, float the right foot up behind you and exhale, step it forward. Lift into your high lunge. Decide if you want to take Virabhadrasana 2 or crescent, and then float your arms up. Really lengthen the side waists. Really lengthen the spine of the rib cage. Broad across the shoulder girdle, lengthen the neck, open your arms up like a funnel for good energy. And let sky and space pour in. Exhaling, hands to your heart, bow towards earth. Release your wings back by your hips, palms down, thumbs out, and bring the thumbs together overhead, and exhale, hands through the heart, and furrow your wings back, and then bring the thumbs together. Follow your breath. And as your hands come back to the heart this time, lengthen the spine as you root the legs. Lift the heart center, lift the low rib ring, lift the gaze. And exhale. Fingertips back to your props. Bring your blocks to medium. Step back plank. Float one foot up behind you. And release. Float the other foot just off the floor. And release. Stay in plank or roll forward into your cobra, into your upward dog. Fluid breath. If upward dog hurts your back, you could try bringing your knees to the floor and more of a cobra. And then exhale. Bring your knees to the floor and float back. Wrap your hands over your chair seat or over your blocks and stretch the shoulder girdle. Breathe deep into the body. Release your hands from your props. Come down onto hands and knees if you're using the chair, and bring your forehead to the floor. If that's too low for you, remember you could bring your forehead to a block or a bolster and roll from your hairline towards the top of the head and roll back down. Don't do this if it puts too much pressure on your cervical spine. But hopefully you're rolling and stretching the back body open. If you need help with this exercise, talk to me after class. You can stay with the rolling or draw your hairline closer to your knees. Bring your hands back towards the soles of your feet and lift the pelvis, lift the back of the heart skyward in rabbit pose. Breathe into it, expanding the ribs away from the spine. Even when we're a little seed pod, can we invite space into our seed coat? Can we expand and stretch the seed coat open? And then release your heels, your sit bones back to your heels. And come up to a seat. Reach for one or two blocks, or sit, turn around and sit on your chair. And pause in Virasana or Sukhasana. Let your spine rise skyward. Your eyes rest back in their sockets. Your jaw relax. Fluid breath. Invite the breath to expand you three-dimensionally and relax you on the exhales. Let your skin soften and your pores open so it's easier for the prana to move in and out of you. Try to find a seat of ease and relaxation. Release whatever tension you notice in the body on the exhales. All yoga asana leads us back here to seated meditation, Dhyana. Feel into the space in the room around you, where you are in relation to the walls and the ceiling and the furniture. And then feel into the space outside of your house in the neighborhood. And feel upward into the sky and downward into the soils. And then turn your gaze inward and feel for space inside the body. And come back up off your block seat or off your chair, placing your hands on your seat or your blocks. Inhale a cow and exhale a cow. And inhale a cow and exhale a cow. And rolling your toes under, take your pelvis back, lengthening from hands to hips. Take your femur bones back in the hip sockets. Pause in your downward dog. How expansive can you make the pose while still integrating it? Now root one foot, and if you'd like, lift the other leg into three-legged dog and stretch from hands to heel. Fluid, three-dimensional breath. Feel for the whole circle of the lowest ribs expanding and relaxing. And release the lifted leg and bend the knees and take the pelvis even farther back and release the femur bones back into the pelvis. And if you'd like, lift the other leg. Stretch from hands to heel. Fluid breath. Spacious at the shoulder girdle and neck. Release the foot and step both feet forward. Heels aligned with sit bones. Look for the space between your feet as you bend your knees. And inhale your hands to Utkatasana in Namaste. And then release the hands and float them skyward, reaching up into your standing back bend. Feel into the space between your arms and release the head of the arm bones down away from the ears. Open your arms, a funnel for all good energy. Root your tailbone. And exhale, hands to the heart, mountain pose. And inhale, lift the arms skyward. And exhale, Utkatasana. Reach your fingertips for your prop and step your right leg back. Some of you may want a blanket for under your knee as we lower into a low lunge. Release the foot and let your hips come slightly forward. If you're on the chair seat, place your hands on the seat, press down and lengthen the spine. If you're using blocks, bring them back to your hips, press down and lift the heart, broad across the shoulder girdle. Now hug in the banks of your river. The hips do need to be strong for integrity in the pelvis and for length of the lumbar spine. But that doesn't mean we create a solid marble sculpture. We still breathe space into the pose. Bring your left arm to the left femur, palm up. Really still extending both side bodies. See if you can lift the right hand skyward. If this isn't comfortable to you, come back to using the prop. You can stay here or bring the right arm back, fingertips touching the hamstrings and the left palm skyward. Broad across the shoulder girdle, long in the neck. Fluid breath. Integrity in the hips, but the river flows between the banks. The sky is reflected in the river. And we exhale, hands back to our props. Props forward and even, we step back, plank. Float one foot up behind you and release. Float the other foot up behind you and release. Float forward, either knees on the floor or come into your upward dog. And then float back, downward dog, and walk your dog. Press into the hands, lengthen the spine. Bend both knees, traction the pelvis up and back, and then float your right leg up behind you and step it forward. Coming into your high lunge, hollow up into the pelvis, and then release the knee to the floor, release the foot. Draw your blocks back if you're using them, or press down onto the chair seat and lengthen your side body. Now you can really use the props to help you train yourself long. And if this is the best place for you to work on hugging the banks of the river in at the hips and creating space inside of the banks, then work here. If you'd like to go farther, bring your right arm to your right femur bone, palm up, and lift the left arm skyward. Don't collapse in the low back. Draw energy up from the pubic bone along the front spine. Support the spine at the back of between the shoulder blades, like someone's hand is lifting you there. And if you'd like, bring the left hand down to the leg, right arm skyward, broad across the shoulder girdle. Create space around the neck. See if you can smile and create space inside the emotional body. And then exhale and bring your hands back to your props and step back, plank, and come forward, either onto the knees with lifted heels and lifted heart, or into your upward dog, broad across the shoulder girdle. Wherever you are, you can lift the chin here and jut the chin forward for a moment. And then release the chin and roll back, downward dog. Now you can stay in the solid foundation dog, working on lengthening the spine out of the hands, or float your right leg up behind you, bend the knee and press the right foot back to the left side of the body, broad across the shoulder girdle. Stay strong in the shoulder girdle. Fluid breath. Where can you feel space in the pose? Where can you invite a stretch so there will be space in the body? And then lengthen the leg, level the hips, and step the right foot down. Float the left foot up behind you. Bend the knee and press the left foot back behind you, opening across the pelvis. But keep your shoulder girdle parallel with the floor. Stay strong into your arms. Invite stretch and opening. Invite the breath to fill the inner space. And then straighten the leg, level the pelvis, release the foot, and lower the knees. Inhale a cow. And exhale a cat. Inhale. And exhale. And open your knees wide, big toes together. Sit back towards your child's pose. Lengthening the pelvis back. Now, if you're on your chair, you can wrap your fingers around the seat of the chair and really just traction your pelvis back. You can gently shift side to side with your shoulders, inviting your awareness to explore, how could I create more space here? And then release your hands from your props. If you're still using a chair, come down to the floor, child's pose. And walk your hands around to the right. Breathe deep into the left side body. Feel for the breath, massaging the left side body on the inhale, and then relaxing the tissue on the exhale. If you feel like you've lost space in the left shoulder joint, then walk the hand back around a little. Release out of the stretch a little and see if you can breathe into a spacious stretch. You can relax the neck and shoulders. And then come back through center and take the stretch to the other side. Inhaling along the right side body. Exhaling, relaxing into the stretch. Come back to neutral. And hands right on the floor, each finger pad active. Roll up into your downward dog. Knees bent. Really traction the pelvis behind you, and then walk your dog. Lift the head and neck a little above the shoulders. Long neck out of the shoulder girdle. Maybe it settles back a little more towards the arms. We walk the dog. Keeping the hands planted. Take your left foot underneath the right and out to the side, pressing the right femur bone back. So you're tractioning your body with your own weight. You're leaning the left foot into the right, the left leg into the right leg, taking the right hip back. And then step back into your dog and take the right foot under the left leg. Feel the right femur bone against the left femur bone and traction it back. Lean the pelvis back farther. Fluid breath. Hopefully you feel a stretch in the left hip and buttock. Step back to center and walk your feet forward and bend the knees. You can bring your blocks back if you have tight hamstrings to support your long spine. Or if you can unfold into Uttanasana, lift your sit bones and let your spine release earthward. You can stay here, or if you have the flexibility, bring your hands behind your sacrum and interlace them and release the arms towards the floor. Now, if that feels too tight, you can reach for your yoga strap and have your yoga strap hip distance wide as you take the arms overhead. Fluid breath. And then exhale, arms, hands back to your sacrum, bend your knees. Float your arms forward and up, Utkatasana, fierce pose. Now this is a pose where we can get really gripped. So first, look down at your feet, lift your toes, lift your arches. Relax your toes. Breathe into the space all around your body, relaxing shoulders away from skull. And as you feel into the strength you're creating in your legs, can you relax other parts of the body? Invite a little bit of space and fluid into the strength you're building. And inhale, reach for the sky. Interlace your fingers the funny way, thumbs to the base of the skull. Lift the elbows. Rest the head back. Lengthen the cervical spine of the neck. Rooting the heels, rooting the tailbone. Release the arms alongside the ears and stretch open. And then exhale, hands to your heart. Mountain pose. Fluid breath. Feel for sky and water in the body. Vast expanses of space. And let's come to lying down on the floor. So I was going to invite you to open into a back bend. If you have a bolster, you can use that. If not, roll a blanket so that you have a blanket roll that you can put underneath your shoulders. Now, if you know you can't do this much of a back bend, then make the blanket roll small, or you could roll the blanket longwise. If you're coming over the bolster or blanket roll, you might want another smaller blanket, or you might want a block on the other side for your head. Okay, so some of you may want blocks overhead for your hands to rest on if you want to extend your arms long. So in that case, it would look like this, is he's going to try to use the blanket as a bed, but you'd place your hands, I'll just kind of try to model, place your arms on the blocks, and they can be as wide as you'd need them to be. You can also bring the blocks back down by your knees if you'd rather for Vata Konasana. So when you come onto the bolster, I'd like you to traction the base of the skull and have your shoulder blades on the uphill of the bolster to begin with. And then you slowly bring the shoulders over, still tractioning and supporting the head and neck. You bring the head over either to the block pillow you place there or to the blanket pillow you place there. The neck is still long. Now, if you want to come into Baddha Konasana here, you bring your feet together and open out to the knees. Bring your arms over your blanket roll or bolster so they open into a T, or bring them overhead, landing on the blocks you placed there or landing on the floor. Then we come back to the breath. We invite ourselves to relax into the supported position on the exhales, to expand the heart center on the inhales. Fluid breath. Imagine the positive qualities of spaciousness. If we had a spaciousness to time, we could pay more attention to the details, pay more authentic attention to ourselves and others. When we have spaciousness of heart, we're more compassionate, forgiving, loving, nurturing, not just to others, but to ourselves as well. Spaciousness of mind means we're not trapped in one continual worry, but we can expand outward for possible solutions. For the things we're grateful for. Breathe into a spaciousness of heart, body, and mind. And let yourself tap into the Anandamaya Kosha, the bliss river that can flow through us, that flows through all beings. Flows through a beautiful Doug fir, a gorgeous sunset, a tasty meal. Now gently bring your hands back in and support yourself in lifting out of this back bend. And come into a simple Shavasana. Let yourself rest into your simple Shavasana. Let your back broaden onto the floor. Like your back body is greeting the earth. See if you can truly rest into the hug of gravity. And open mind, heart, and body to sky. Now let's gently invite energy back into fingers and toes. Gently step the feet in and draw the knees towards your chest. And if you'd like to, circle the knees apart from each other and back together again. And then as you're ready, roll over and rest a moment on your side. And as you're ready, come up to a comfortable seat. And when you arrive in your seat, feel again your roots. Feel again the stem of your spine rising skyward. And feel into the expansiveness of that sky. May we invite space into our awareness this weekend. Namaste. Thank you. Oh, look at your little pack. Your little pack, Bella. Oh, they're so cute.
Our pack regularly grows.
Yeah, I
Right
was
now,
gonna
we
say.
have two guest dogs.
Okay.
One, he's a horse, and then another little guy.
They're cute. They look pretty happy, those two playing behind you. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. They
Yeah.
play and play most of the day.
Oh, that's good.
It's a good reminder of what's possible.
Mhm. So, how was that for you today?
Oh, wonderful. One of my all-time favorite postures you did, and I mentioned this once before, where the leg is up and then we extend over the